What's going on, everybody? It is Haiku, myself, back again with another video after a fairly long time, fairly long period of time. Of course, I don't make videos every day. I really, as I've always said in my videos, I've started this more of a vlog, although I'm starting to think maybe I should try to be a little more consistent. And I've said that before, but hey, life happens. I don't think we're all, the more I think about it, the more I realize, man, everything that's happening is happening for a reason. I can't change or fix what happens in my life. Ultimately, I kind of got to just roll with the punches. So I'm really coming with the video. I wouldn't say trying to recap everything that's happened in the past few months, but really just my thoughts on cryptocurrency and when it comes to just this government and what they're trying to do as far as people like me and you, when it comes to like our rights and our freedoms, and those kind of basic elements of human rights. So I've been delving and I've been doing some thinking recently, and one of the things that poignantly stands out to me, there's so much political nonsense and political theory and political infighting when you look at the United States and in other states as well, Australia being one, the UK, mainly the western states. And if you really look at it from an outside perspective, the situation looks hopeless. You've got so much anger invested here when you go on Twitter and you look at quotes. I really feel like a lot of things on Twitter is gaslighting to get your emotions upset, get you out of your comfort zone, get you out of being like a human being, like being who you are truly, and to get more in the less to like reactionary situation. And I'm bringing this up because I obviously, as you've seen, I haven't made a video in a while. I decided I was going to go ahead and take at least a 30-day break. And I came back after my break to Twitter. And when I came back, the SEC had, launched their court case against Hex and all of that other negative nonsense. It's like it unfolded right after I came back after break. And, since then, I feel like Twitter just kind of breeds that. It's important to understand new projects. It's important to understand and get your word out about what you believe in. And the free speech of it is important. But I feel like it just it can also be negative. It can get you into a situation where you just want to race bait. I wouldn't say, but let me rephrase, race bait. Wow. Gaslight, individuals, or be gaslighted yourself. So what am I getting at? You got two sides, right? You got two dichotomies. When you look at it, you've got the left. Well, of course, I put it in my right hand. You got the left and you got the right. You got both ideologies coming and they're vying for space and they're fighting each other. When Trump was president in America, we had a very strong conservative right. When Obama was president, it was very strong left. And right now it's just like, it's asinine. It looks like Cloud World on acid. Just all the craziness, all the things that are happening within the United States itself. And so I started thinking, one day, myself as a person involved in cryptocurrency, when I look at cryptocurrency, I'm not really looking at it, it's the best way that I can word this effectively. I'm gonna have a second just to think about this here. So when I think about cryptocurrency, I think about freedom. I think about personal finance and the ability to control my own money as it's been allowed to me to basically be a good steward of. And money in itself is pointless. If you really think about it, you got two extremes, right? You've got people that very poor that want to burn everything down. They're do scam, steal, whatever it takes to make a dollar. And you have people who are very rich, who are so rich they're just numb to the plight of man, and they think they're their own gods. And then you have everybody in the middle, like, or close to the edge of one extreme or close to the edge of another. And so what started really going through my head, I started thinking, my head, cryptocurrency is freedom, financial freedom, and all the entities that we talk about, that we say are bad for cryptocurrency, right? Here's a chart of Bitcoin that I have. And on this chart, I've talked about this a while before, but you'll see I made notes, and I went back in history, and I just tracked where JP Morgan was doing anything in regards to Bitcoin. In 2020, they filed a trademark, and it took off. Double top, weird manipulation, Super Bowl frenzy is where I kind of came in. And then 2022, they filed a patent. And they, ever since they filed that patent, and they also signed a deal with Viva Wallet, they've pretty much been on an uptrend since 2022. So I'm looking at it from a top-down perspective. Okay, you have two vying powers, right? You got the very wealthy, you've got the SEC. They're trying to make cryptocurrency illegal, right? They're coming after true DeFi, I guess. We're not, the blockchain, as far as being KYC, they're coming after us. But these other entities are starting to buy the main blue chips and manipulate and move them. So right now, it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. Okay, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors. And the smoke and mirrors that I'm starting to see is that it doesn't matter ultimately which political side wins. Right now, the left is in power. It's an extreme left. Revelation was the very wealthy people on the left side don't care. They don't care whether it's the left or the right, because if it's the left, they can push it so far to the extremes of controls where it becomes anarchy, and it degrades the household, families, units, things like that, wokeism, all those types of things. They can push the left so far that it can become detrimental to everyone and push us into socialism, which ultimately gives the people at the top very control. Or they can push it very, very far to the conservative side, where it becomes fascism, and it's still the same thing. There's order, there's control, there's religion, but step outside the norms and you'll be taken down. You got two extremes, and everybody right now is fighting, between those two extremes, because that's all they know. That's all we see. Most conservative people today are upset. We're ticked off. We're mad. And then you have the same thing on the liberal side. Nobody's happy. Nobody will ever be happy. That's the insane thought about it, right? So from my faith perspective, my belief in Yeshua and Jesus Christ, and my faith in Yahweh, as he's given me faith and given me understanding, I've realized that life is, of course, much more than money. I'm not trying to be cliche when I say that. Money is important. And we live in a weird society, right? So if you bring up money, like in a church perspective, most people in the church will say, oh, money's evil. It's the root of all evil. No, the Bible says it's the love of money that's the root of all evil, right? But then you have these people who are so rich at the very top. They live a false Christianity, but all they want is control. It's becoming greed. So the money itself can only buy you so much. There just comes to a point where you can only buy so many cars. You can only buy so many houses. You can only buy so many watches. You can only have so many wives. You're going to die. You're going to get older. And mentally, I believe it, as I've researched it, as a person who wants control, who wants to get in that point of greed, as they get to different levels and levels and levels and levels of control, it's no longer about the money. And that's why I say politically, it doesn't matter. You see, like the political left and right, all these vying powers, all this infighting, it's just designed to keep everybody separate, whether you're conservative, whether you're liberal, whether you're middle of the road, because they can manipulate it. They can manipulate the media. They can manipulate the message. So it's all pointless because at the end of the day, they have a plan to have total control. It doesn't matter which one side wins. And ominously, I've been hypothesizing what is their ultimate plan of control. Their ultimate plan of control, 15-minute cities, right? Let's just hypothesize and think about it. You got a 15-minute city. You can't leave that city. Let's just say, hypothesizing, because they say for whatever reason, all right, climate change is in effect. Nobody's allowed to leave this city because if they leave this city, you're gonna be fined or whatever reason they want to come up with. Okay, we have the tiny home movement. So you have with that movement with the tiny homes, for example. Look, in this case, there's 350 square foot tiny homes going for 100,000. So you've got a push for smaller living areas, right? Smaller communities, more condensed situations. And I'm probably going to sound crazy to somebody. Somebody will probably also say, hey, you don't know what you're talking about. I really don't care. But this is how I see it, okay? Anytime there's a major change in the way that things are going to go, and as the status quo is supposed to be, so to speak, by major change, that being regime change, leadership. You look at the fall of Rome, and then move on into the Renaissance era or the medieval period, and then the Enlightenment. Every time there's always a shift. It changes the way that the socio-economic society exists on a plane, and I think we're in the middle of a transition. They call it the Great Wealth Transition. I feel that that's kind of indifferent because not everybody is going to be a part of that wealth. Case in point, not everybody cares about cryptocurrency. Not everybody cares about it having a decentralized wallet, or they're not picking up on the fact that their money is their freedom, right? So in this new world that I'm envisioning, just like you have medieval kings and serfdoms and people, you've got the king, he's got his nice, he's got his power, he's got his control, you got the nobles, you got the serfs who work the land. These guys are talking crazy, talking about, making farmers extinct. You've got the CEO of BlackRock, and this guy, the CEO of BlackRock, and I have to point this out, it's important, because again, I've been trying to analyze things. I analyze things from a holistic perspective when I'm thinking of the market. This guy literally said verbatim in 2022, every company and every industry will be transformed by the transition of a net zero world. The question is, will you lead or will you be led? Now, think about that statement, okay? BlackRock, I will tell you, at the current moment, okay? BlackRock at the current moment, this company that I'm referring to, Larry Fink, they own now my investment, 401k. They own it. They bought it out. I got it. I got notified through work. We're purchasing your investments. BlackRock owns homes. They own military investments. They're everywhere. Okay. These people also own Bitcoin, and they're trying to push a Bitcoin ETF. So their whole ultimatum, the whole argument that we're making about, climate change being a scam, which I believe is, honestly, I believe it is, and I'll tell you why. In the Jewish readings, based off the years and the time frames, if you go back to the old books, like the Book of Jubilees, I've got a lot of these old books that I've been going through. The year is supposed to be 364 days. Okay, I'm going to show this to you because I'm not trying to scare you, but just to show you something. A year is supposed to be 364 days. So you have these guys that are running the world, that are talking about climate change, and they're honestly, I don't care what you believe, they're under the influence of demonic powers, and I call them demons. Okay. From the ancient Jewish texts, when we look at the year, it's supposed to be 364 days a year, and there's supposed to be one day dedicated, I believe, in a celebration to Yahweh. If I take 364 and I divide it by 12, you get 333 repeating. If you know biblical history, 333 is the biblical word. That's God's number. That's holistic. His number is 333. Okay? So if you take the year as it's supposed to be and you manipulate it and you tell people we have 365 days and we have all this and you divide it by 12, not trying to scare you guys, but you get a repeating of 30666666. Do you guys see that? So the years, of course, as we go from every year to year, as we exchange through seasons, are going to seem weird and off because we're not on the proper schedule in the first place. Now, that being said, the Bible does say that in the end times, there's going to be, you won't be able to tell the difference from the seasons. And I feel that the Antichrist, or that being the enemy, has already positioned the world to be that way. That's just my faith. That's just my belief. So when I look at what Larry Fink and what Bill Gates and all these big guys are doing, they're ultimately trying to destroy what God has made. They're under that influence. They have so much money and so much power that it's not about the money. It's about the control. And it's about the control to the point that they are willing to let it all burn, let it all change, let it all be reset as long as they have control. Because when you hold on to the things of this world, all you care about is money, and that's all you have, and your assets. And you get to a certain point, you got so much of it, it doesn't matter anymore, and you start getting numb to it. You have time to placate in your head devious things. So you vie just for control for the sake of control. Now, how in the heck does this segue into cryptocurrency? I'm already 17 minutes into this video. And I'll show you how. Okay. If you have a system on a secular basis, okay, where you have 15-minute cities, you can't move unless you have money, unless you have wealth. You're going to have both people fighting against each other. Right now, everybody's against each other. Everybody's wrong. Everybody's this. But nobody's looking at the transition of major structural wealth except us many few who are in cryptocurrency. When you look at individuals in cryptocurrency, they all scam. 99.9%. If I was to go to ETH or Exchange Pulse and look at the new coins coming in, the liquidity pairs, there's a lot of scams. There's a lot of that. There's some other projects coming out. But when I think about the base components of what Richard Hart did with Pulse Chain, it's genius. Okay? And nobody gets it yet. Although a lot of people claim they get it, but they don't understand. I don't think they fully understand or grasp it. Okay? The change is going to happen, whether we want it to or not. Okay? And in the long term, the freedom of the people to be able to influence, to change the world, you're going to need currency. You're going to need it. It's going to cost money to buy passes to go to different cities. You're going to have money, or else you're going to be stuck in a place where you don't want to be. And it's kind of like that now, but it's not as bad. Technically, a person could quit their job, and because of fiat cash, they could beg on the street corner and they'd still be able to get their food every day. But if you take away fiat cash and you limit it to a credit or exchange where it's no longer in your hands, that really hurts poor people that beg on the streets, people that just say, screw the system, I'm going to go be a nomad. And people have done this. They've just gone out, lived off the land, and decided to be nomads. That's why there's a push to make homelessness illegal. Where are these people going to go? Well, there's tons of FEMA camps. Remember the camps? Tons of camps with lots and lots of coffins. Honestly, I think in a dystopian universe where the people are poor, who can't afford, who would normally beg, they're probably going to get swept up and taken to those camps and probably killed, or they'll die or starve to death. That's really graphic and horrible to think about. But Richard Hart making Pulse Chain as like a statement. It's decentralized. Technically, JP Morgan or BlackRock could get a wallet and go buy up all the Pulse Chain if they wanted to. And that's scary because they did it with Bitcoin. They could do the same thing if they find value in it. But Pulse Chain is so powerful in DeFi. Just like XRP, I'll mention these other coins we know that are out there. But when I look at Pulse Chain, I look at Hex, I look at PulseX, I look at these coins that Richard Hart has made. They're completely Even though there's market factors, there's 90% dips, they're completely separate from that. So it does give you an opportunity to be a part of that economic wave eventually, despite all this bad noise, where you can afford to be free. It's really sad that I say it that way, but that's it in a nutshell. I'm trying to come off personally away from the nonsense of Twitter and the fighting and the conservative left and right, because it doesn't help anybody, you know. And honestly, none of the candidates who are running on either side care about me or you. Most politicians will just lie to you straight in your face because they just want to be in that position. They have no genuine morality. And you got to think, these people have money. They have freedom. They've tasted the freedom, but they're so rich and they're so wealthy that there's nothing left to do but figure out how to get control. And that's terrifying. So I say that in a nutshell. That's so this video is about, just my understanding of what this is, where it's headed, why it's so detrimental and harmful, and why it will get worse. The Word of God says it will get worse. But why ecosystems like Pulse Chain, completely free, some bad actors, but why these ecosystems being built now, unless they cut off the internet and they flip a switch and turn off the internet altogether, why they're so important to personal freedom. Because everyone else right now in the world, they hate their jobs. Inflation is kicking their butt. They're working full time, and even working full time, they can't afford to live. Their rents are $1,500, $2,000. None of these people have their eyes on cryptocurrency. They want something better, but cryptocurrency has been painted so negatively since the last bull market and the crash. It's the last thing they're thinking of. They're thinking of how to feed their families. They're thinking, how can I make more money? They're going to get more desperate. They're going to get more. They're going to go when people get more desperate and people get scared, they go for the strongest leader. And that strongest leader is going to be on either side. And whether it's a conservative, right, whether it's a liberal individual, and I'm just kind of saying this, I guess, as a statement in my personal blog, we have to prepare ourselves for that. If you're not a follower of Yahweh, Jesus, God, or Yeshua, Jesus, if you're not a follower of Jesus Christ and you don't have faith that can kind of hold you regardless, at the current moment in life, I have the faith where I'm not worried. I was for a long time in my life, but the Bible tells me that they've neither seen the righteous nor forsaken or their children begging for bread. This entire time through COVID, my family has eaten. We have had roof over our head. We have had clothes. We have had all the necessities and the things we need. I may not have some of the things that I want. I may not be able to even do some of the things that I want. Silvertooth is one of the Hexagon guys. He posted a picture of a mobile home, how it was all dilapidated and broke down. Mine's is not as bad as his, but it's broke down. Like, it's falling apart. And there's things in this home I have to fix that I can't fix. But at the end of the day, I still have a roof over my head. I'm starting to learn to be thankful for the very, very small things in light of all the crap that's happening, because I feel that a lot of people are not going to be prepared for it. They're not thinking mentally. But I will say that being led to cryptocurrency through prayer and by my faith, like, I've straight up been able to survive and take care of things and do things by the grace of God that I would not have been able to do just off of my job alone. And that is a big blessing. Despite even the negative dip we had with the SEC and Pulse Chain, we're not well off, but when we needed things, like I needed extra formula for the baby or whatever, or my son needed clothes for school, or we needed whatever birthday party, like small stuff, I had it, which is interesting. And a lot of people don't have it. So I just really hope, I started this channel, I was like, oh, let me just say I'm going to make my way to 1 million. And now I'm at the end of it, about 2 years in. I feel like I've gotten more mature. gotten closer in my walk with the Lord. And I really feel like the best advice I can give anybody who's watching this video who's in crypto. And if you don't, that's fine. That's your prerogative. If you don't believe in the Lord, that's fine. I challenge you to get close with the Lord. If you're not, or get to know him, so that you can get peace and joy despite what's happening in this world, what's going to continue to happen. That you can get peace, that you can get joy, that you can be saved ultimately from, your sin, from hell. Because you can't take $1 million or $1 billion with you to the grave. Technically you could. They could put it in the grave with you, but the moths are going to eat it, and it's going to dissolve away. The Egyptians already proved it's impossible. They tried to take their money to the grave, lavish funerals, tried to get mummified. And when they made that step, what happened thousands of years later? Their bodies are being displayed in museums for people to look at. They're not even, their bodies in death are being desecrated when they thought they would be respected, because they thought that there was, what they had was going with them. And it's not. It's not. When it comes to persons, God is not a respecter of persons. And I've told my wife this, and plenty of people. I've said, just because you're poor doesn't mean you're going to heaven. Just because you're rich doesn't mean you're going to heaven, because the Bible says the rich and the poor, the Lord makes them both. And everybody has a place to fit. A place to fit. And our job, as I'm learning, is, for me, is to be more like Yeshua, be more like Christ, right? More understanding, more forgiving, but also embrace the contentment, like being content. Because I can tell you, despite all the craziness, we've had everything that we needed. Maybe not everything that we wanted, but everything that we needed. And I feel like that's the biggest message I could throw out there. The investing, most certainly, if you're in crypto, is important. Not everybody's doing it. There's not a whole lot of people doing it. 90% of people in the world are going about their business in fear, living in fear. They have no idea. Trying to prepare themselves, they don't know how to prepare. But luckily, you watching this video, a lot of people, you're already ahead of the game in that factor. We're kind of ahead of the game in that factor. But if the Lord sees to bless you with additional funds, or me with additional funds, we have to have our minds and our bodies placed in a place where, if we are looking at those many zeros, we don't become the same people that just want control, but people that want to help other people. And you can't do that without Christ. That's just how I feel about it. You can't do it without Christ. You got to have him. So that's my 2 strikes. That's it really for this video. I haven't made a video in a while, and I might not make a video for another while, but I know that in time, things will change. I don't know how my life will change moving forward. I may not see X's or millions of bucks in cryptocurrency, and I'm at a place right now where that's fine if that happens, because I know I'll be taken care of, either here or, God willing, in heaven, which is eternal. And that stuff don't ever fade, and they won't pull my body out of a grave and put it in a museum. So God bless you guys. Thank you for supporting the channel. Ultimately, just listening to the video, stopping by and seeing what I have to say. I mean, I'm a nobody, but sometimes you have to share. You have to share experiences, and ultimately, I'm not afraid to share that. And I hope that this encourages you. So. Oh, yeah, and before I go out, I did post up a new track based off of scripture from Psalms. I'm going to try to do more general focused music that way. Most people call it gospel. I'm in a weird place with the music. Like I still like house, but I just discovered what do they call it? Golly, what do they call that program? I just discovered Ableton. I've been a DAW user, and I've been experimenting with Ableton, so my music's probably going to take a pause as I learn this new program. So hopefully new music will be out later. Just And that, with the music too, I hope it blesses people too. I'm going to try to make more positive music and get better. But that's it. Last plug. Love you guys. Peace out. And we'll talk soon.